I'm 90. Isn't luck, it's habits. I didn't reach 90 by accident. In 2023, researchers at Harvard Medical School published results from a 40-year study tracking 724 people from the age of 19 all the way through old age, measuring everything: their health, their happiness, their brain function, their physical fitness. And they found that the single most powerful predictor of whether someone would live a long, healthy, mentally sharp, physically capable life into their 80s and 90s was not genetics. It was not how much money they had. It wasn't even whether they exercised. It was something most people completely overlook in their approach to health after 60. And I'm going to tell you exactly what it was and how to apply it in this video. But that's not all we're covering today. I've spent the last 6 months diving into the latest longevity research, Blue Zone studies, Harvard's aging research, the work being done at the Buck Institute for Research on Aging, and the emerging science from the National Institute on Aging to build what I'm calling the Longevity Health Code, a practical, evidence-based, completely doable framework for living longer, feeling better, staying mentally sharp, and maintaining your physical independence deep into your 80s and 90s. This isn't motivational fluff. This is science, and it's science that is directly, immediately applicable to your life starting today. Let's get into it. Why we age and what that means for how we live to understand how to age well. We need to start with a basic understanding of why we age at all, because modern science has made dramatic progress on this question in the last decade, and the answers have practical implications for every decision you make about your health. At the cellular level, aging is driven by several interconnected processes. The first is the shortening of telomeres, the protective caps at the ends of your DNA strands, like the plastic tips on shoelaces. Every time your cells divide, those telomeres get a little shorter. When they get short enough, the cell can no longer divide properly and either dies or becomes what scientists call a senescent cell, a zombie cell that sits in your tissues, pumping out inflammatory signals that damage the surrounding healthy tissue. The second major aging driver is chronic inflammation, sometimes called inflammaging by researchers. As we get older, our immune system becomes dysregulated in ways that generate a persistent low-grade inflammatory state throughout the body. This chronic inflammation is now believed to be a root cause of, or major contributor to, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer, and arthritis. All of the major diseases of aging have an inflammatory component. The third driver is mitochondrial dysfunction. Mitochondria are the energy-producing organelles in every cell, and they decline in both number and efficiency as we age. This is why we feel less energetic, why our muscles produce less power, and why our metabolism changes as we get older. The good news is that mitochondria are among the most responsive biological structures to lifestyle intervention. Exercise, diet, sleep, and certain supplements all have measurable, documented effects on mitochondrial health. Here's the most important insight from modern aging science. None of these processes are fixed or inevitable. They are all profoundly modifiable by the choices you make every day. The field of epigenetics, the study of how our environment and behavior turn genes on and off, has demonstrated conclusively that lifestyle choices can alter the biological expression of aging, even in people who are already in their 60s and 70s. You are not a passive passenger on the aging train. You are the engineer, and you can change the speed and the direction. What the world's longest-lived people actually do the blue zones, a term coined by researcher Dan Buettner in collaboration with National Geographic, are the 5 regions in the world where people live measurably, statistically longer and healthier lives than the global average. They are Sardinia, Italy, Okinawa, Japan, the Nicoya Peninsula of Costa Rica, Icaria, Greece, and Loma Linda, California. What researchers found when they spent years living among these communities and studying their habits was not what they expected. It wasn't that these people all took a particular supplement or followed a specific diet protocol. It wasn't a single factor at all. It was a constellation of lifestyle factors that, taken together, created a profoundly health protective environment for every person in the community. The 9 Blue Zone Principles. Power 9 Principle 1. Move naturally. The world's longest-lived people don't go to gyms. They live in environments that constantly prompt them to move. They walk everywhere, tend gardens, cook from scratch, and do light physical work as a normal part of daily life. Research consistently shows that regular, low-intensity movement throughout the day, not intense exercise sessions, is one of the most powerful anti-aging interventions we know of. Principle 2, purpose. Know your why. The Okinawans call it Ikigai. The Costa Ricans call it Plan de Vida. Both translate roughly to reason to get up in the morning. Having a clear sense of purpose in life is associated with a 7-year increase in life expectancy in multiple large population studies. This isn't vague motivation, it's measurable biology. People with a strong sense of purpose have lower cortisol levels, less inflammation, and better immune function. Principle 3, downshift. All Blue Zone communities have built-in daily rituals for stress relief. Nap time in Sardinia and Ikaria, ancestor reverence in Okinawa, prayer in Loma Linda and Nicoya. Chronic stress accelerates telomere shortening, increases inflammation, and suppresses immune function. The Blue Zone longevity advantage includes deliberately managing stress through routine, community, and spiritual practice. Principle 4, the 80% rule. Okinawans have a cultural practice called harahachibu. Stop eating when you are 80% full. Blue Zone communities universally eat less than the Western average and eat their smallest meal in the late afternoon or early evening. This is not calorie restriction in a clinical sense. It's mindful eating and portion moderation that results in a naturally lower caloric intake without the psychological stress of dieting. Principle 5, plant slant. Across all 5 Blue Zones, the dietary foundation is plants, beans, legumes, whole grains, vegetables, and fruits. Meat is eaten, but in small quantities and infrequently. Beans and legumes specifically appear in every Blue Zone diet as the cornerstone protein source. The Mediterranean-style plant-forward diet associated with the Sardinian and Icarian Blue Zones has been extensively studied and consistently shown to reduce cardiovascular disease, dementia, and cancer risk. Principle 6, wine at 5. 4 of the 5 Blue Zones include moderate alcohol consumption. Specifically, red wine consumed socially in the late afternoon or with a meal. The evidence on alcohol and health is nuanced and still evolving, and abstaining is clearly not a disadvantage. The lesson here is the social context. Regular, relaxed, enjoyable social connection rather than the wine itself. Principle 7, belong. Of the 263 centenarians interviewed across the Blue Zone research, 258 belonged to some faith-based community. Attending faith-based services 4 times per month was associated with a 4 to 14-year increase in life expectancy in multiple studies. The mechanism is social connection, stress reduction, and a sense of meaning, not theology per se. Principle 8, loved ones first. Blue Zone communities universally prioritize family. Aging parents live nearby or in the home, and commitment to a life partner is associated with up to 3 additional years of life expectancy. Caring relationships are not a luxury. They are a biological necessity for healthy aging. Principle 9, right tribe. Social connection is perhaps the most powerful of all the Blue Zone principles. Social isolation is now classified by the U.S. Surgeon General as a public health epidemic associated with a 29% increased risk of heart disease, 32% increased risk of stroke, and 50% increased risk of developing dementia. Building and maintaining a social circle of people who support healthy behaviors is foundational to longevity. Pillar 1. Muscle, the anti-aging organ. If you could take a single drug that reduced your risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, osteoporosis, dementia, depression, and all-cause mortality, while improving your energy, your metabolism, your sleep quality, and your body composition, you would take it. That drug is strength training. Muscle is now understood by geroscientists, researchers who study the biology of aging, as a metabolically active endocrine organ that secretes proteins called myokines, which have profoundly beneficial effects throughout the body. Sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass, is the single most direct driver of physical decline and loss of independence in older adults. After age 30, without intervention, you lose approximately 1 to 2% of your muscle mass per year. After age 60, that rate accelerates. The good news is that muscle responds to resistance training at any age. Research published in the Journal of the American Medical Association demonstrated that 87-year-old nursing home residents just 10 weeks who followed a strength training program for just 10 weeks increased their muscle mass by an average of 11% and their walking speed by 12%. Arit. If it works at 87, it will work for you. Practical recommendation: perform resistance training using weights, resistance bands, body weight, or machines 2 to 3 times per week, targeting all major muscle groups. Progressive overload, gradually increasing the challenge over time, is the key principle. You do not need to go to a gym if that's not your preference, but you do need to challenge your muscles beyond what daily activity provides. Pillar 2. Movement all day. Every day separate from structured exercise. Daily non-exercise movement is independently and powerfully associated with longevity. Research from the Mayo Clinic and multiple other institutions has shown that the total amount of time you spend sitting is associated with increased mortality risk, independently of how much you exercise. In other words, you can go to the gym for an hour and still suffer the metabolic consequences of sitting for 8 or 9 hours a day. The target that consistently appears in the longevity literature is 7,000 to 10,000 steps per day as a daily movement baseline. This is not a magic number. It's a proxy for being generally active throughout the day. Walking is one of the most extensively studied health behaviors in existence, and its benefits are remarkable. Reduced cardiovascular risk, lower blood pressure, better blood sugar regulation, improved mood, reduced dementia risk, and enhanced sleep quality. Pillar 3, nutrition. The anti-inflammatory plate, the dietary pattern most consistently associated with healthy longevity across the research literature, is a whole food, plant-predominant diet with significant omega-3 fatty acids, minimally processed foods, and moderate caloric intake. This aligns with the Mediterranean diet, the MIND diet, specifically studied for brain health, and the dietary patterns observed in blue zone communities. The three most evidence-backed dietary priorities for longevity after 60 are: 1. Adequate protein intake to prevent sarcopenia. Most seniors dramatically undereat protein. Aim for 1.2 to 1, 6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily. 2. Omega-3 fatty acids from fatty fish, walnuts, and flaxseed. These have powerful anti-inflammatory and brain protective effects. 3. A high diversity of vegetables and legumes. The research consistently shows that dietary diversity, not any single superfood, is the most reliable predictor of microbiome health. And microbiome health is increasingly linked to immune function, inflammation, mental health, and metabolic health. And now, for the Harvard finding I mentioned at the very start of this video, the single most powerful predictor of healthy longevity in the 80-year Harvard grant and Gluck study was the quality of a person's close relationships. Not cholesterol levels, not exercise habits, not diet, warm, secure, reciprocal relationships. People who were most satisfied with their relationships at age 50 were the healthiest at age 80. The biology of social connection is mediated through the same stress reduction, inflammation reduction, and immune enhancement pathways as every other longevity intervention. But the effect size is larger. How to keep your mind sharp for the next 30 years. Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline are among the most feared consequences of aging, and rightly so. But the science of brain health is one of the most rapidly advancing areas of medicine, and what we now know about protecting and even improving cognitive function in the second half of life is genuinely remarkable. The Alzheimer's Association estimates that approximately 40% of dementia cases are potentially preventable through lifestyle modification. And that is not a small number. 4 in 10 cases of the most dreaded disease of aging may be preventable by the same lifestyle factors that support cardiovascular health, metabolic health, and physical fitness. The Finger trial, a landmark Finnish study, demonstrated that a comprehensive lifestyle intervention addressing diet, exercise, cognitive training, and vascular risk factor management could improve cognitive function in older adults with elevated dementia risk by 25% compared to controls. This was a randomized, controlled trial, the gold standard of medical research. The lifestyle intervention worked. The 6 pillars of brain health, cardiovascular, exercise. The single most powerful evidence-based intervention for brain health is aerobic exercise. Exercise increases blood flow to the brain, promotes the release of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, sometimes called miracle grow for the brain, stimulates the growth of new neurons in the hippocampus, the brain's memory center, and reduces inflammation. 30 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic exercise, 3 to 5 times per week, is the prescription. AI. Sleep is when the brain clears itself of the toxic proteins, including beta amyloid and tau, that accumulate into the plaques and tangles associated with Alzheimer's disease. This clearing system, called the glymphatic system, is primarily active during deep, slow-wave sleep. Consistently sleeping less than 7 hours per night is associated with a 59% increased risk of cognitive decline in large population studies. Sleep is not optional. It is when your brain does its most important maintenance work. Cognitive engagement, learning new things, genuinely new, challenging things that stretch your existing capabilities, stimulates the formation of new neural connections, and builds what researchers call cognitive reserve. This does not mean Sudoku puzzles, which primarily exercise skills you already have. It means learning a new language, a new instrument, a new skill, or pursuing genuinely novel intellectual challenges. The key word is new, and the key ingredient is challenge, social engagement. Social isolation is a major risk factor for cognitive decline, and socially active older adults have been shown to have slower rates of cognitive decline compared to their isolated peers. Social interaction engages multiple brain regions simultaneously and provides the kind of mentally stimulating unpredictability that solo activities cannot replicate. Stress management, chronic cortisol elevation, the hormone of sustained stress, directly damages the hippocampus and impairs memory. Practices that reliably reduce cortisol: meditation, yoga, tai chi, time in nature, enjoyable social connection, sufficient sleep, are not indulgences. They are neurological maintenance. Metabolic health, type 2 diabetes, and insulin resistance dramatically increase dementia risk. Alzheimer's disease is sometimes referred to in the research literature as type 3 diabetes because of the deep connection between insulin metabolism and brain function. Managing blood sugar through diet, exercise, and maintaining a healthy weight is one of the most important and most overlooked brain health strategies available. Let me bring this all together for you with a simple truth. The science of healthy aging is no longer a mystery. We know what works. We have decades of large-scale, rigorous research from blue zone communities, from randomized controlled trials, from epidemiological studies tracking hundreds of thousands of people, and from the emerging field of geroscience. The Longevity Health Code is not a theory. It is the synthesis of that science into actionable principles. Move your body every day. Strength train twice a week. Walk 7,000 to 10,000 steps. Sit less. Feed yourself an anti-inflammatory, protein-adequate, plant-rich diet. Protect your sleep as the neurological necessity it is. Cultivate close relationships and fight social isolation with intention. Engage your brain with genuine novelty and challenge. Manage stress through daily practice. Maintain your metabolic health and find your purpose, your reason to wake up every morning, because it turns out that may matter most of all. None of these require a prescription. None require expensive equipment. Most require only a decision, consistently followed by action. The person who is healthier at 75 than they were at 65 is not lucky. They are deliberate. If this video was valuable to you, please share it with a friend, with a sibling, with your spouse. The information in this video could genuinely change the trajectory of someone's health and their life. And if you'd like to go deeper on any of these topics, we have videos on strength training after 60, the anti-inflammatory diet explained, and brain health strategies that are all linked in the description below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.